The Southern African Development Community is a regional bloc created in 1992 that unites the countries of Southern Africa and aims at political, economic, and security cooperation among member countries. Follow its story. The Frontline was the first form of regional coordination and integration known in Southern African countries, and its objective was to mobilize efforts to strengthen the national liberation movements that fought against colonialism in the region. On February 15, 1965, the presidents of Tanzania, Julius Nyerere, and Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, met in Lusaka, capital of Zambia, to analyze the political situation in Zimbabwe against the white minorities' plan to unilaterally proclaim the independence of the territory. The Lusaka meeting marked the birth and beginning of frontline activity. But it was only in 1969 that the expression Frontline States was used for the first time. With the independence of Mozambique and Angola in 1975, the Frontline States gained new vigor and became stronger. As Agostinho Neto declared, in Zimbabwe, Namibia, and South Africa, our struggle continues. In this sense, in 1976, Angola, Mozambique, Botswana, Tanzania, and Zambia decided to create the Frontline States. The fundamental goal was to coordinate efforts, resources, and strategies to support the liberation movements operating in the region. The ANC and the Pan-African Congress in South Africa, SWAPO in Namibia, and the Zimbabwe African National Union, ZANU, and Zimbabwe African People's Organization, ZAPU, in Zimbabwe. In April 1977, Presidents Agostinho Neto of Angola, Samora Machel of Mozambique, Seretse Khama of Botswana, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, and Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia met in Lusaka, intensified efforts, and created a new dynamism for the front line in order to quickly achieve results in the struggle aimed at overthrowing colonialism and apartheid in the southern region of Southern Africa. With a more solid organization, the independent states of the region felt the need to engage in their socio-economic development with a view to eradicate poverty in the countries and peoples of the region. From 1977, active consultations were held by representatives of Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Zambia, working together as Frontline States, which led to a meeting of the foreign ministers of Frontline States in Gaborone, Botswana, in May 1979, which convened a meeting of ministers responsible for economic development. That meeting later took place in Arusha, Tanzania, in July 1979. The Arusha meeting led to the birth of the Southern African Development Coordination Conference, SADCC, 1 year later. Zimbabwe's independence on April 18, 1980 was undoubtedly a victory for the Frontline movement. SADCC was officially created on April 1, 1980, in Lusaka, Zambia, with the majority of Southern African countries, including Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. The representatives of all these states then signed the Lusaka Declaration towards Economic Liberation, and SADCC was born. SADCC was formed with the main objectives of national political liberation in Southern Africa, to reduce the economic dependence that some member states had on apartheid-era South Africa, and also to improve regional integration. On March 21, 1990, the independence of Namibia was proclaimed, which had the engagement of SADCC countries, friendly countries, and in particular the great contribution of Angola in supporting the armed forces fighting for the liberation and independence of Namibia. On July 20, 1981, the Memorandum of Understanding was signed on the institutions that would make up SADCC. In 1989, the Summit of Heads of State and Government, meeting in Harare, Zimbabwe, decided that the SADCC should be formalized in order to give it an adequate legal status and to replace the Memorandum of Understanding with an agreement, a charter, or a treaty. Then, on August 17, 1992, at a summit held in Windhoek, Namibia, the heads of state and government signed the SADC Declaration and Treaty, which effectively transformed the Southern African Development Coordination Conference, SADCC, into the Southern African Development Community, SADC. SADC was established under the treaty to lead the economic integration of Southern Africa. The objectives of SADC, as stated in Article 5 of the SADC Treaty, are to achieve economic development and growth, reduce poverty, improve the standard and quality of life of the people of Southern Africa, and support the socially disadvantaged through regional integration. To promote and defend peace and security, develop common political values, systems, and institutions. The SADC Treaty established a set of institutions such as the Summit of Heads of State or Government, the Body for Cooperation in Politics, Defense, and Security, a Council of Ministers, a Secretariat, a Court, the Troika, the Permanent Commission of Officers, and SADC National Committees. After a long period under the domination of the apartheid regime, the ANC and Pan-African Congress and all South African movements, mainly from 1950 onwards, waged a resistance struggle against the white minority that ruled South Africa and kept black citizens under oppression. Countries in the Southern African region integrated into the Frontline States and later, in SADCC, made efforts to put an end to apartheid and the implementation of a multiracial and democratic regime in South Africa. After a long and decisive journey from 1990 onwards, South Africa entered a transition process and then the first multiracial and democratic elections, which took place on April 27, 1994, and elected Nelson Mandela as the first black president of South African history. With the fall of apartheid in South Africa, all the efforts and commitment made by countries in the Southern African region were rewarded. South Africa thus became the 11th member of SADC. The region still faces a series of problems, from dependence on raw materials, low levels of industrialization and limited value addition, high unemployment, especially among young people, high public debt in several countries, fragile democratic processes in certain countries, difficulties in implementing SADC regional agreements, limited access to basic services such as healthcare, education, and clean water, high prevalence of diseases like HIV and malaria. These and other issues make some analysts call SADC a toothless dog for being unable to make its member states comply with their own protocols. Despite all these challenges, SADC has worked hard and achieved significant progress over the years. Some of these accomplishments stand out. Almost 20 years ago, the Common SADC Driving License was conceived, which allows any citizen of the region to drive in any country in the region without the need to change. In order to increase trade in the region, the SADC Free Trade Zone was launched in August 2008. The objective is to reduce customs duties by up to 85% on some products produced by SADC countries. Currently, only 2 countries out of the 16 countries have not yet joined the Free Trade Area, including Democratic Republic of Congo and Seychelles. SADC has also been one of the main promoters of gender equality and women's representation in political life. Most countries have made great progress in this sector. In July 2013, the SADC Real-Time Gross Settlement System was launched to facilitate faster and more efficient payment transactions in the region. SADC RTGS is a multi-currency platform that allows citizens of SADC member states to make payments to each other in real time, whereas previously it took several days to process these transactions. All member states, except Comoros, participate in this system. The 41st Summit of SADC Heads of State and Government held on August 17, 2021, approved the transformation of the SADC Parliamentary Forum into a regional parliament, thus bringing what was seen as the missing piece to regional integration. The regional parliament was established only as a consultative and deliberative body, which means without the power to create laws. The regional parliament will be responsible for bringing the participation of SADC citizens in the bloc's affairs. It will also facilitate debate on issues in the region and accelerate the implementation of SADC protocols that need to be ratified in each country. On June 2022, the first SADC diplomatic passports received by the SADC Executive Secretary were delivered and distributed to all SADC employees. This passport allows any employee of SADC institutions to travel to any country in the region without the need for a visa. It is expected that in the near future, this passport can also be extended to ordinary citizens of the region. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and like.